I know that famously, I mean, you say in the book, and you referred to it earlier, that the writing of the songs, the beginning of that process for you is always extraordinarily painful and horrible and makes you depressed. And,
yeah.
And yet you return to it, and it seems with renewed vigor, you know, just from the results. Is that something to do with the fundamental idea that as an artist, you have to constantly reinvent and renew yourself?
Well, what am I going to do if I don't do that, you know? I mean...
Well, a lot of people just coast on the formula, or they don't seem to put the emphasis on reinvention that you do over the long term.
Yeah, I just want the records to get better. And... no, it's not even that. I just actually want to make good records. And I don't want to make records that are sort of substandard. And it's quite easy to make a substandard record. And so that the effort to do that becomes harder, you know, it just becomes harder. And you see it with everybody, really.
Oh, yeah.
You just sort of, I don't know, it's hard to make a good record.
Is it easy for you to take time off? Are you comfortable with not doing stuff?
No, I love time off.
Because you were comfortable when it was imposed on you in the lockdown, but generally are you?
I love to lock down. Controversially.
I remember.
I liked it because I got to spend a year with my wife. And Earl was with me as well, my son.
Sadly, I was on the phone every other day.
Yeah, we were on the phone all the time writing the book.
Yeah.
That was my other wife, as my wife called you, and I think your wife called
Well, sometimes your wife would actually, I remember once Susie piped up from the back of the room after about 2 hours, and I was going, Jesus Christ, she's listening to that for...
She was passing through.
Yeah, she was passing through, okay. Yeah. So what's next?
I've got a really amazing album coming out.
No, I mean, I know that, but followed by a tour.
Okay, so the next thing I'm doing, I'm taking a month, is to glaze 17, two sets of 17 devil sculptures.
I wasn't even going to ask about that.
Figurines, yeah.
So
no, they're this amazing man, art dealer, character, saw them and fell in love with them, and he wants to exhibit a series of them and put them on the market.
Wow.
So that'll be really interesting to see, because that was never the intention. And I made like 17 Staffordshire-style ceramic figurines of the devil, the life of the devil, from his death to his birth to his terrible death. And for some reason, I did that through lockdown.
I remember.
And it's, they're really coming along.
They are very beautiful. I'm not biased. I dreaded going to your ceramic studio. I was thinking, oh God, the rock stars making ceramics. But it was actually quite. I put it off.
No, it's really one of the worst things about having creative friends is listening to their stuff. You know, where they go, oh, I've made a new record, and you go, oh, really? And come around and have a listen to it. It's terrifying, right? Or anything, really. Yeah. I've just written a script.
Yeah. Just made a Staffordshire pottery.
It's very, very difficult to do, and I try not to lie when I hear somebody's stuff. Like they play their record.
Really?
And
you're brutally honest.
Well, I'm not brutally honest, but I've worked out ways of like you hear it and you're thinking, oh my God, this is fucking terrible. And then you go, whoa, oh my God, whoa. You put everything into that. Things like that.
So you lie.
No, it's just like, wow, like, whew.
Done verbal. Yeah.
And you always know when you've done a terrible show or someone's thought your show is terrible when they come back stage and say, man, the lights. Or the sound.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
On that note, I think it's already 8 o'clock, so we've got half an hour to take questions. I think because it's very tight with time tonight. We've got to stop exactly instead of the usual thing. So there's questions from the audience and questions online via Hannah here, who's going to. But anyone down here? Right away. Good.
Yeah. My name's Will. I run the Nick Cave Bad Seas 20,000 Instagram account, which I don't know if anyone's following, but nope. Okay. So there you are. Time well spent. In the book, there was something that Nick, you said about Ghosting album, which never sort of got answered for obvious reasons. But I kind of wanted to know what you think now, since time's gone on, since the book's been written. And I'll just quote it. It says, ghosting feels like it's moving towards me with all the secrets and mysteries in tow. It's as if it's trying to tell me something, and perhaps it is. Perhaps we will reveal itself when we finally get to perform it live, but I really don't know. Well, now, since you've had time to perform it, do you know what it's sort of telling you now?
I think what ghosting was in the end was... And I think I wrote about, this is a lovely question, and I think I kind of we talked about this too in the book, but it became very clear when I was performing those songs that that those songs were, and this requires some abstract thinking, but they were an attempt to, at the time, to improve the condition of the being of my son. They were in some way an attempt to talk to him and to say things to him that I wasn't able to say when he was alive, because you just don't, and then they're just not there. And so I think that became a kind of ongoing conversation with him. And it continues, you know. So, yeah, thank you.
Good question. One more down here. Go over this side. I'm going to try and be democratic here, though. Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Cave. I wanted to ask you, you've obviously got a rich and complex library of your own songs now. Do you ever look at anybody else in the race and go, fuck, I wish I'd written their work?
No. That was easy. Occasionally, you know, I mean, look, I was always, I was always jealous at the time. I'm not now, but I was, you know, not just bringing this back to Shane MacGowan, but I was always secretly jealous of Shane's capacity to write solid human lyrics that were truly empathetic lyrics. It was something that I didn't have the capacity to do at the time. I developed that capacity, but he had a kind of naturalness about that. So, you know, occasionally I'm jealous of other people's songwriting, or yeah, wish I could have written that, but not often. Not often.
We take one from...
Okay, online question. People look to you for help and answers. Is it ever a burden?
It's terrible. Look, I have the Red Hand files, and it's turned into the weirdest thing. And sometimes I'm writing one of them, and I get like almost like a sense, like a dizzying kind of vertigo about what the hell am I doing? I'm answering this question about something that I don't know anything about, that's been asked of me, so I'm kind of giving it a try. I have no sort of authority in these matters. Sometimes they're just straight out agony aunt kind of things, and it's just this weird thing that's developed, and it's become crucial to the way I lead my life. It's I just get up and start looking at the questions, and there's so many now, and they're so beautiful, these questions, mostly. It's just become a part of the way I lead my life, but it's not something that I ever envisaged that I would do, and sometimes I don't want to do it. It is a burden, but most things of value are difficult on some level.
Do you want to have one more?
I'm going to shorten this because it's quite long. But the questioner says she has a friend, Ella, who's read The Death of Bunny Munro, that's your 2009 novel, and also And the Ass or the Angel. And she says, I heard recently a TV series of Bunny Munro is underway. I wonder if at this point in time, is it important for you at all to be recognized for any of your work outside the music, or maybe outside your music and the Red Hand Files?
They're making Bunny Munro into a TV series. Yeah, they've just announced it. So I'm kind of involved a little bit. I've read the first episode, and they can write, and they're doing a good job, and it's good people and a great director. But I tend to let these things happen as they happen. There's a TV thing of And the Ass or the Angel too being made. Uh-huh. So that's exciting.
Let's go here.
Nick,
Hi.
My question is, you wrote Ghosting to get over a death. Are you aware of the impact it has getting ready for it?
The impact of what?
Getting ready.
To get ready for death. I have all sorts of responses in the Red Hand Files from people who are extremely attached to that record. And I sometimes look at these sort of matters where people say things about things with a pinch of salt, but I think that Ghosteen has a special power, that record, that exists beyond just a kind of listening experience. I'm really pleased to hear. I think that my son is somehow inside that record in a way. And
does that answer your question?
Did that answer your question? All right. Well, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that.
Right here, yeah.
Hello, you spoke about the human condition, and we're kind of in this tension of loss. So loss, all of us, from things that happen in life, but also the finishing line of loss. What does peace mean to you within that? What does peace look like?
You mean peace in the world?
No, just peace as in we have this tension, and how we deal with the loss of current life and loss of what's to come, I suppose, because you're saying that there's the finishing line of life.
Well, I don't know what the answer to about peace is, but I do know that that it's this idea of the precarious nature, our precarious nature, is to me what gives the world meaning, and I think the opposite of peace is lack of meaning, and peace for me is to understand that what I'm doing has is of some existential benefit to the world. That, to me, is the thing that makes things worthwhile and gives my life meaning. So I would say that you know, I'm not a very peaceful, I don't have a very peaceful soul in the sense that I know people who do, that just sort of sit around and seem contented with things, and I often envy that. I'm not really like that, but I often question the value of things, and I know that I find that in turning the value of things is sort of turning myself inside out and looking at the world and looking at people and doing some small thing to help the sort of project of the sort of rehabilitation of the world. That's where meaning is, and I guess in that respect, that's where peace is. Thanks. Hiya.
Hi there. First of all, I'm really sorry for your loss. I know he was a great friend to both of you, Shane, and he'll be greatly missed.
Yeah.
I was watching This Much I Know to Be True a few weeks ago, and it was the first time I'd watched it since reading the book. And when those beautiful figurines came out, I found myself really moved by, especially the last one, the devil begging for forgiveness, because it brought back to me the last chapter of the book that really ripped my heart out when you talk about atonement and the need to seek atonement for Arthur's death. And I was wondering, since the book is now a few years since you felt that way, how do you feel about that now?
That's a very big question, and I feel more. I feel more integrated within the whole situation. That I feel it's Arthur's death and Jethro's death and all the rest of it feels just very much a part of the way I live my life. And those desperate sort of questions that I think were in the book I don't feel so despairing as I did when I was talking about those things in the book. I feel it's not acceptance. It's just more of a kind of integration with the people that are no longer with us.
What was the question?
He played "Death is not the end" today. Do I believe that? Look, I have no authority on those matters. I really don't know. I don't. It's not why I have the belief, the sort of wobbly belief system that I have. That I'm worried, that I'm concerned with such matters. But I feel certainly intuitions that and hunches, intuitions, softly spoken feelings in that direction that make me wonder, at least, if there isn't something else. That's one of the things that I love about religion, especially the Christian religion, in the sense that, to me, it is something that's, for the last 2,000 years, been utterly absorbed into Western culture, but is based on a kind of intuition about things, something, or a kind of yearning or longing about things, which is something I think that we all feel and reach out in different ways. But I love that idea that it's not something that's based on fact. It's based on a kind of mystical intuition. Does that make sense?
Can I just remind people in the gallery to line up at the standing mic so that we can all hear you if you're asking a question? I've got one here from Aimia. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Hi, Nick. How do you access that creative place, as you describe so beautifully in your book, Where Arthur Lives? I'm an art therapy student, and I'd love to interview you for my thesis.
Good luck.
Yeah. Well, no. I'm not doing the interview. I don't even really know what the question is.
She says,
where do I access that space?
How do you access it?
How do I?
How do you
What
access that creative place, as you describe so beautifully in your book, quote, Where Arthur Lives?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. I know that it's not a little space that I go to. It's part of everything. So is the creative process to some degree. But like religion, my creative, the way I create is the same. It's a matter of sitting down at a desk and in the morning and picking up a pen and writing on a piece of paper. And in a way, it's the same. It's exactly the same as going to church in the sense that it's done in an ordered way, in an ordered place. And that's where I find my religiousness, for such as it is, and my creativity, such as it is.
I have another one from online.
Within the conversations between Nick and Seán, where did you mostly differ, and where did maybe come towards each other's viewpoints more after your conversations? And that's from Nanny.
What was the second part?
Where do we differ?
Yeah.
And where do we come together?
Well, we differed in politics, that's for sure. So much so we left it out of the book. No, no, we didn't. That's wrong. We came together. It was a conversation, as you say. A lot of it was a cross difference, because I don't, for instance, particularly espouse your religious beliefs. I mean, I respect them, but I'm not there, and I don't have that. I don't feel that need to go there in the way that you do. But that doesn't, I mean, I was always preoccupied with Nick's religious instinct, and I could never understand why people didn't ask him about it. True, I remember looking at, in preparation for the book, at interviews, and there was nothing. And yet there it was in every record, every song. So it just seemed obvious that we go there. I don't know if that's a cross difference, but there was certainly things that it was a very riven time, wasn't it, at that time? It was a very loud, fractious time.
It was, yes.
Public discourse.
And what was going on in the world and all of that sort of stuff. But, you know, what I like, for me, I'm genuinely I'm not interested in just telling someone what I know or what I think I know. And in fact, when I do, I realize that I actually don't know very much at all. And what I'm concerned, where I want to be, is on the very edge of what I know, and that I can have my ideas changed. Or I think the problem, or the difference, or what happened, let's say, is that we started these conversations on opposing sides, or at least to some degree. And I think there was a kind of side-taking that happened. And I felt, through having extensive conversations with you, that I stopped taking sides about things and had a position on things. And that position on things was much more flexible, much more fluid, that could sort of move around. And I feel, I feel as an artist that side taking is not good for the business of business of art, in my opinion. For me, other people can. Billy Bragg can do what he likes, you know, or Roger Waters can do what he likes. But for me personally, I need something that's where I can just slip and slide around amongst the ideas.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of leaks into the way I am politically as well. And people, a lot of people don't like that. You know, they think, you know, fucking take a side. But I just feel boxed in very easily, and you know, and I want to find things out. I don't want to be just expressing the thing that I think that I know to people. I want to find stuff out, you know. And you're great at that because you know a lot. You know a lot. And we would have arguments about certain things, and I would learn a lot from those.
Well, vice versa, yeah. I mean, there's an interesting. When I initially asked you about the book, almost the very first thing you said was, it can't be interrogatory, it can't be an editorial, it has to be conversational. It has to be a conversation. Yeah. And it took me quite a while to understand what you really meant by that, you know, because I thought, okay, great, we can have a conversation. But it's only as the book progressed that I realized, Christ, this is a proper engaged conversation. Because when Ryan and Cirque, I don't know if people, when I dip into it, I realize it's a very circular book. It keeps going forward, going back to things, elaborating on them a bit more, moving. Maybe some people find that frustrating, but we did disagree. But in the end, the conversation trumped everything.
Even with disagreement, the thing that I find more often than not, that the arguments that are happening are the kind of upward sparks of colliding virtues, in the sense that we're both on some level right and on some level wrong. And that's usually the way it is, in my view. I mean, there are bad ideas out there, for sure. There are bad ideas out there. But very often there's, you know, this sort of black and white thing, I just don't think it applies anymore. It's not getting us anywhere. And it's completely out of control. This idea that you need to take a side, and this divided and polarized world that everyone keeps talking about is a big problem, an increasingly terrifying problem in the world.
Or the idea that you can't have a friendship with someone that you disagree with over politics seems quite odd.
I personally, my most cherished friends, and I consider you to be one of those, are the people that I find myself arguing with the whole time.
Oh, God.
You know, in the sense that the relationship is strengthened through that, because
it has been tested through that as well.
It's tested. Yeah. It's tested, and
you can be a stubborn.
I think the fundamental thing about true friendships, if they are lively, is the notion of forgiveness. That we are constantly forgiving and being forgiven, and sort of reaching across the dissonance of the disagreement to a sort of common ground. And that's what the book actually is. It's a testament to that, I think.